Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Faith Over Fear. And today we are so excited because we are starting off with our testimonies. And for today, Crystal will actually be the one starting us off. She's going to give us all of the details from the very beginning and just everything about her spiritual walk. So just go ahead and walk us through it. I know that you're going to have your notes.
Yeah, so I wrote down the beginning part of it because I don't want to miss anything, I'm starting from the beginning, from when I was very little. So I just want to get all the details out. But all right, I'm going to start. Okay, so let me start from the beginning. My family got to church when I was around 4 years old. I don't remember much of that age, but I do remember me and my little sister loved it. We would dance for the Lord with tambourines and streamers. As we grew older, we would go to our Sunday school classes, and I learned a lot in those classes. I feel like those classes formed me in a way. Everything I knew was because of those classes. And there's a verse in the Bible, Proverbs 22:6, and I'm going to read it. It says, "Direct your children onto the right path, and when they are older, they will not leave it." And it's so true. It's so true because I feel like I like those classes really helped. Yeah. So, and as I went through my walk, I always knew the truth because of those classes. So, I believed everything I was taught 100%. There was never a doubt in me about it. As I grew up, going to church just became a routine. I would go because that's what we did on Sundays. It wasn't because I was so passionate about the Lord. It was more because my parents would take me type of thing. I had my church friends, so it was cool. I liked seeing them on Sundays. That was what I would look forward to. By this stage, I was like around 12 years old. I was living a double life. I would go to church on Sundays, but Monday came around and I was a different person. I had the biggest potty mouth. Like, it's crazy. It was so bad. But I had the biggest potty mouth, and honestly, I don't even know if my friends knew I went to church. I would hardly pray if I did at all at home, and I would not pick up the Bible. It's not that I wouldn't want to, but it was more like I didn't have time or I would forget. And be- I would forget type of thing. But I remember that at church, when I would have moments with God, it was like if I was praying at the altar or if I was at a youth service, it was real. I felt him. But when I would leave, it was pushed aside.
Right.
I was a lukewarm Christian. I knew what I believed, but I wasn't living how I knew I needed to live. It's like I knew of God, but I didn't know God. When I was 14, I decided I wanted to get baptized. It was in 2016 after NYA. And NYA it's a youth event we have, and it's 3 days long, and they're always really powerful. After this NYA, I remember I had a thought of getting baptized. I knew I needed to be baptized to make it to heaven, and I had never thought about it before until then. So I prayed and I told God that I wanted to get baptized, but obviously I didn't want to do it if I wasn't going to live right. So I asked God to give me a sign if I should get baptized. I didn't tell anyone I was thinking about getting baptized. I just said the prayer, and that was it. The Sunday after NYA, we're at church, and my mom tells me she had a dream that a leopard exactly like the shirt I was wearing jumped in the water and that it came out. And I was like, I remember when she said that, I was like, whoa, like, whoa, because, and she emphasized on exactly like your shirt. Like, I remember the outfit. It was a leopard shirt and a pink skirt. And I don't know, it was just like, wow, like that's a whole sign.
Like it was a confirmation for you.
Yeah, it was like, and I guess it was shocking to me because I didn't really have that intimate bond or relationship with God. So him answering like that, I was like, whoa, right.
Yeah.
So when she said that, I told her, I was like, I want to get baptized. And like the next Sunday I got baptized. I thought I was ready. I knew I needed to get baptized eventually. And well, I asked for a sign and God gave my mom that dream. So I did it. I remember when I came out of the water, I was kind of like, dang, that's it. And that sounds kind of bad, like because I was expecting this whole thing, but I was just like,
Kind of like what I thought about, also getting baptized. That just kind of like I mentioned this before you, like when you get baptized, you feel like the heavens open and that you're this like
yeah,
completely new, different person with new thoughts, new feelings. But you just like get out of the water and you're still you, but it's more of like because we didn't understand that it's like a coverage, like it's a
yeah,
connection, and but yet we're still humans at the end of the day.
yeah. And it's like, it's a spiritual thing, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't know it then. So, and I wasn't spiritually okay, I can say. So it was just like, dang,
Right.
like that's it.
Yeah.
But um I didn't really feel anything. And I know that sounds kind of bad, but it's the truth. Like that's what I felt. I remember I tried to change because when you get baptized, you're born again. So I tried to stop cussing and I tried to change my appearance physically. But I did not have a strong relationship with God. I didn't have a firm foundation. I wasn't reading the Bible and I wasn't praying as often as I should. I wasn't living for God, I was living for myself. I didn't know better. I knew I needed to get baptized. I knew Jesus had died on the cross for my sins, but I didn't know who he was. I just knew of him. And that's like, I feel like it doesn't really make sense unless like I knew what I grew up learning, but I didn't know it on a personal level.
Right.
I just knew of God. I didn't know him. I didn't fear God. And that sounds so bad, but I'm just being honest, like that's how it was for me. And I did it because I knew I needed to get baptized eventually. And I feel like the fact that he gave me a sign, I was just like, okay, it's time. And later on, I want to explain like why I'm so confident in this, but I'm going to keep going. So, shortly after my baptism, I went on living the same, if not worse off than before. I didn't know then what I know now. I didn't know I had to die to myself. If you told me that back then, I probably wouldn't have even understood it, to be honest. I just knew what I felt, and God gave me a sign when I asked for one, so I did it. As time went on, I was not living right. When I got to high school, things got worse. I started vaping and I would drink. I would sneak out sometimes and go to parties. Then in 2019, when I was 16 years old, my dad suddenly passed away. He had an accident out in the farm. I was working when it happened. It's crazy because that day was so off for me. It was like so busy. We were so behind and I was just overwhelmed and stressed. And that day my sister texted me and she just said Crystal. And I knew, like I answered her and I never got a reply. I knew something was off. My coworker came inside and told me that someone was there to pick me up. I remember my stomach dropped and I immediately knew something was terribly wrong. When I walked out, my cousin was there and I asked him what happened and he wouldn't say anything. But I knew. I kept hysterically yelling at him to tell me what happened, and all he said was, "Your dad had an accident." When I got home, there was an ambulance and cops outside my house. The driveway was blocked and they weren't trying to let me pass. I had to like push an officer off of me and run to my house. When I got home, there was a lot of people outside. I walked inside and my mom and my sisters and my brother were just all sitting in the living room. I just hugged my mom and cried. After that, as time went on, I started hanging out with my friends more because I didn't want to be home. Home felt weird and sad and different. So to escape home, I would go hang out with my friends. I started partying more and drinking more. I would vape all the time and I even started smoking weed. Then after that, COVID happened. The schools shut down, churches shut down, and like that's kind of like where I stopped going to church cuz like the churches shut down, which like before then I would go to church but it was different because my dad wasn't there, so we would just go and it was just not the same. And then COVID happened and everything shut down. And my sister, she was like, I mean, we were all grieving, and we don't know how to do that. So my sister was losing it. And so she had to leave. So my mom and her moved to Kansas, and me and my little sister stayed with my older brother. I got really depressed. We would drink all the time, like every weekend, and I would literally wake up at like 4 p.m. just to turn in my assignments, and then we would like smoke and just do nothing. I got a dab pen and I was always high after that. I didn't feel anything. Then in 2021, things started going back to normal. Things started opening up again. So I went back to school and I thought life was good. By this time, I was a senior in high school. I felt like I was on top of the world. My friends and I would go to all the parties. After I graduated, I became a little pothead. I would smoke all the time. Like, as soon as the high would go away, I was already smoking again. And it was like that for almost a year. I didn't feel anything. I was just living. I felt like there was no point to my life. I knew I wasn't living right. Deep down, I knew there was a God and that He was there. Throughout this process, I always knew deep down that I was a child of God. I used to always feel like I was going to heaven, but then I would look at my life and I was like, there's just no way. Like, the way I'm living my life, there's just no way. I got to a point where I no longer felt bad for the things I was doing. I lost conviction. I remember when I was younger, we had a class, and the brother said that when you lose conviction, that's a scary place to be in. And years later, I found myself in that place. Right. And it's crazy because I didn't feel bad. Like, at the beginning, I would, I knew I was in the wrong and I knew I shouldn't be doing these things. But after a while, I was just so far gone that it was just, I was numb type of thing. Mm-hmm. And I literally feel like I hit rock bottom. I say it as a joke, like I feel like I hit rock bottom and then I bounced and hit it again, But it's true, like I didn't feel anything. But God, Right. In 2022, He started tugging at my heart. It was like towards the middle of the year. My mom would beg us to go to church with her and we would never go. And I feel like it was because like we would stay up partying on Saturdays so we wouldn't wake up. And even the guilt, like how am I going to go to church after I'm over here partying it up on Saturday? Right. It felt hypocritical. And I wouldn't go. She would beg me all the time and I was just like, yeah, and then Sunday came around and she would just go to my room and just leave. She would try to wake us up, but we wouldn't, and she would just leave. And it was like that for a while until I just randomly started showing up to church. Like I would just pop in here and there. And I didn't think anything of it, I didn't think that God was about to transform my life. I would just go. And I remember that every time I would randomly go, I would just cry like a lot, And that's how it was. Like I was in and out randomly. I would say from like maybe May, June-ish, June. Mm-hmm. And then I remember July 31st, we went to one of my friend's parties and I got really, really, really messed up. Like I was so messed up. And I think that's the worst that I had ever gotten. And then after that, it's crazy because I feel like by mid-August, I was like a completely different person. But it's because God was literally tugging at my heart. Like, I don't know, something changed from the end of July to mid-August. I remember that the conversation with my friends started changing. I was feeling like God was tugging at my heart, And I told her, I was like, I think I want to change my life, And she was like, yeah, like, I don't even know. God just opened a door for us to like, I felt it. Like we just started talking about God more, but like that was it. And then it's crazy because like God was also tugging at my sister's heart. As time went on, like I remember I was walking to my room once and I always like her room is before my room, so I would like pop in, And I walked in once and she was reading her Bible, and I was just like it threw me off. I was like, it caught me off guard. I was just kind of like, I felt awkward. Like I opened the door and I saw her and I just walked out. And it got me thinking, like, what are you doing with yourself, you know? And then it happened like 3 times. And I just like, I would walk in and then I would walk out. And that was it. And then once we had a conversation, we were in her room and I was like, I asked her, I was like, so how long, like, have you been reading, you know? She's like, I don't know, a while. And I was like, do you understand what you're reading? She's like, not really. I'm just reading. And I was like, oh. And she was like, yeah. She's like, if you think about it though, like the only reason we were placed on this earth was to spread the word of God. And when she said that, it's like a blindfold came off my eyes. And I was just like, whoa, like, what am I doing with myself type of thing? Like, it's like he just opened my eyes. Like I was blind and he just opened my eyes. And I was just kind of like, dang, like I'm not living right. And from that moment on, I started praying. And I remember that I had just quit my job at Starbucks. I worked at Starbucks for like a year and I had just quit. So I was like, I had time. And I was like, I don't know, I was just going through it, I guess. And I started praying a lot. I would pray all the time. Like when I was driving, it was just me and God in the car. And it was a lot of crying, like a lot of just healing, you know? And then as time went on, I started reading the Bible. And I noticed that when I read the Bible, I didn't really understand it, but something felt good. Like I didn't know what I was reading, but I felt like God was working. You know, he was transforming my insides without me even realizing it. I was just reading and I was like, well, that doesn't really make sense, you know, but I kept reading. I just kept reading. And I formed that foundation that I had never had before, you know? Like I said, like I knew of God, but I didn't know God. And that's when I began to know God. And just his sacrifice and everything just became personal, you know? Like I got the fear of God. And it was just so special, you know? Like, and slowly he started getting rid of all my vices. Like music was a big one. I remember that like the drastic life change just happened and I got in my car once and the music was the same and I just felt so weird. I was like I need to turn this off immediately. It was a Doja Cat song. It was like the Planet Her album. I literally used to like replay it on repeat and I got in my car once and I was like, whoa. Like, whoa, you know? And it's crazy how the conviction came back into my life, you know? And I don't know, even with the vaping, like I tried to stop vaping so many times, but then the moment that I tried with God, like I didn't feel the need to go buy another one, you know, like, and it's crazy because I had literally tried so many times and it was just not going away. And then after that, I was just done, you know, and that's how powerful the word of God is, like, and prayer, like, I was building a foundation. And like I said, like I was taught the word when I was little. And now that I'm older, like I'm not departing from it. Like the verse says, you know, like, yeah, I had a rocky road, but now I'm here and God is like glorifying himself through what I've been through, you know, and that's beautiful. Like, and I used to think like, why did God give me that sign? Like if I was just going to go out living, but he never left me. Like I left him, but he never left me. He was there. And it's crazy because when I would get into like some scary stuff, like I would always go to him. Like, and he was just there.
Right.
And I took advantage of that, you know? But now I'm just like, wow, like he knew what he was doing, you know? And the person I am now, like I never in my life pictured myself where I am now. And it's just amazing. It shows how great he is. And it's crazy. It's crazy because I didn't realize like that I had to lose my dad to know God, you know? Because if my dad wouldn't have left, like I would have just been in the church routine and I would have never found him for myself. But I had to like go through that and I had to hit rock bottom so I could just realize that God is all I need. Like he's the answer, you know? And I mean, yeah, sometimes we look at bad things and we're just kind of like, dang, like why am I going through this? But like God knows what he's doing. And he knew from the beginning, like, yeah, people may look at my life and be like, wow, like she got baptized and then she fell, but like it was all part of the process. It was all part of God's plan. And I wish I would have done it now, but I don't regret it, you know?
Right.
Like he was with me, he knew what he was doing, and I'm just grateful that he saved me. And I hope that I can help anyone, you know, if they're going through a similar situation, like you're not alone. Like God is always there and he never leaves you. Like we're the ones that leave him. And it all starts with literally like having a simple conversation with him and like reading the word, you know, like that's where it's all at. Like he is the word and it's literally life changing. It's alive and it's transforming and I'm a living testimony of that.
Amen. And I feel like to kind of add on to what you said about that you like maybe you feel like it would have been better to be baptized where you are now, but you realizing that there was a purpose for you to get baptized at the age of 13, right? And I feel like because God knew what you were going to go through, he knew that you just needed that spiritual coverage. Because imagine if you didn't have that coverage, there would have been even more moments, probably those moments that you said that they were like scary or that you were just like really into the alcohol and like drugs or like marijuana, right?
Yeah.
There would have been even worse outcomes, but because you had that protection, further things couldn't like happen to you. So he knew, so that's why he was like, she needs this coverage because what she's gonna go
That's
through.
crazy.
I know. So I was like, you see, like God's perfect timing. So that's why like I feel like it's okay if you feel it, just go for it. But if you like feel that you're gonna go back or there's moments of your like guilt of like I shouldn't have done it, God knows why. He wouldn't let something happen if he knew it wasn't for the best for you. So I feel like that's like a testimony right here that whoever is baptized has that coverage and God doesn't leave you. Look at he said like, you know, it's a promise that if you're baptized, he's gonna bring you back, you know?
Yeah. And he did.
Yeah.
He brought me back. And it's crazy because I feel like now I'm closer to God than I've ever been in my whole life. Like, he chose me from the moment, you know, and I never knew what he had for me, but he knew and he just got me through it all.
Right.
And it's crazy also because I feel like when my dad passed away, I feel like I felt like I was baptized for a really long time, but it had only been 2 years, you know? And it's crazy how much that affected me. Like I didn't realize how much it affected me until now that I'm looking back. Cause I feel like I'm always like a strong person, you know? So I was like, oh, I'm fine. But it really messed with me, you know? But I now see like it's hard, you know? But I know that my dad's in a better place and I know that like everything happens for a reason. And that's hard, but like he gave me peace. Like when my dad passed away, I had peace. And I don't know, it's crazy how we have to go through hard times because we don't want to listen, you know, we don't want to listen. So God puts us through these like trials and finally like we're like, you know, like it took all this, but now I'm here. And I don't know, it's just I'm grateful. I'm grateful for everything. Like he's just too good to us, you
Right.
know?
No, yeah. And I mean, yeah, like I feel like your testimony always leaves me like speechless because, you know, you're still young, you know, you're 21. So I feel like you still have so much more to like live and go through. And I think it's beautiful that God got you or like got a hold of you at this perfect timing because I always say I think it's such a privilege being able to be in a walk at this age because we can do so much for God and have like no regrets of like let's say like you're 40 and you're like, oh, I wish I would have had that passion at that age. And I feel like we're at that perfect age. You're at that perfect age to do so much more. And you've already been through so much. You know what I mean? At such a young age, you've already been through so much. And I feel like it just shows like a matureness that many people don't have. And you've already been able to obtain. Like, yes, of course, there's still so much to learn, so much to like grow on. But I feel like you realizing, the bad is actually for good. I think it's already something that even it helps me to see like, well, like, God has a purpose in the good and in the bad. There's always something amazing that's going to come out from that. And like you being able to be that light for your other family, for your mom, your sisters, your brother. I feel like it's, for a reason. And slowly but surely, you're going to be discovering even more than what you're already seeing now.
Yeah. Wow. Hearing you speak, I'm always like, wow. No, but God is faithful. And if you take anything from that, like, God is faithful. And the Bible and prayer is what's going to help. Like, if you feel like you don't know where to start, like, start with Him. Like, the word, and just talk to Him. I feel like sometimes prayer can be intimidating. Like, you want to do this whole, like, ritual type of thing. And it's literally just a conversation with God, like, raw. Like, I talk to God, I'm like, I don't even know what you're doing, but
Yeah, no, yeah. Or like even if you feel that you don't even know what to say, you can start off by like meditating with the worship song. I feel like, just start off, put play on it and just like, listen to the words. And I feel like you're going to start like speaking it, you're going to start like pouring out. But if you feel like you don't know where to start or anything, just make sure that, it's just a conversation, just like me and her, we're having. And also meditate, there's amazing worship songs that you can listen to and meditate, and you're gonna see that God is just gonna put words into you because He already knows what you're gonna say, but He just wants to hear it from you.
Yeah, He wants you to invite Him in. Like, and that's crazy because we were talking about this the other day. Like, when we're on Judgment Day, like, He's gonna be like, either depart from me for I never knew you, or like, like, that means like when we talk to Him, like, if you do all these good works but you don't talk to Him, like,
a connection with Him,
He doesn't know you because you didn't take the time to know Him. You just did all these things in His name, but like, you didn't know, He didn't know you. And I feel like that's really deep.
It
like
is.
And the fact that he's gonna say like, depart from me for I never knew you. Like, wow.
Yeah. So that's why like it's very important for us to know who is God and making sure that He tells us who He is, because we can hear it from many people. But like, for example, here now we're like telling you, but we're also encouraging you for you to know who He is for your own self. Like, read the Bible for your own self, because it's very important for you to know. That way nobody can like deceive. How do you say it?
You.
Yeah, deceive you. There you go.
And that's really good because, like I said, like, I knew of God. Like, a lot of us know of God, like, we grew up in church, we know of God, but like, knowing Him is something completely different. It's literally life changing, and it's very important. Like you said, like, take the time to get to know Him. Like, you won't regret it. Like, it's gonna be transforming.
It really is. But yeah, no, that's very powerful. Everything that you've been through, and it's amazing to be able to like now share like this walk together and be able to have like this friendship, because we're learning from each other. Like, she helps me, I get to her like as much as advice that I can. So I hope that, someone is able to have like that connection of like, if Crystal can do it, I can do it. And God is for everyone, and every single walk is completely different. So so I feel like, I guess like for my part, it helps me to realize that there's blessings behind the bad. Like, everything is for a good reason, even the bad. So like, let's keep that, into perspective, and not think that because we're in the walk, we're protected and that everything's going to be perfect. You know what I mean? And it's not. It's just being in the walk like covers us and like helps us to go through it.
Yeah, and everything's a process. That's important. Because sometimes we're like, oh, we come to God and we expect everything to be gone like that. But God is going to take you through things, and you're going to learn, and you're going to be like, wow, like, I don't need that. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to stop doing all these things and then come to God. Like, no, like, come to God as you are, and He's going to take you through the process.
Exactly.
And that's something I had to learn. Like Joseph, you know, I like to use this example because that story really spoke to me. Like, I've been knowing the story of Joseph, but I was going through a specific season and I was like, wow, like he had the dream, you know, but then he was in jail. And he was in jail for a while.
Yeah.
Like, imagine what he felt. Like, how am I going to get there, you know? Like, if I'm in jail. And that's like it's a process, you know? And then eventually he got to where, like, his God said, you know,
Right.
but it's a process. And that's so important. Like, the process, sometimes it's not your favorite, but it's necessary.
It's necessary.
Yeah.
No, yeah. See you guys on the next episode.
Bye, guys.